Hey babies. Hey babies. Hey babies. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Happy Thursday. We taped this show and Callow slept in today. What's going on, Callow? I had to wake him up. I had to wake you up this morning to
You
tape this
did.
show. What happened?
I thought I've set an alarm. I did, and I slept through it. That's that's
Mm.
a that's a first for me.
It's an
So
unusual one for you.
I'm usually on top of things, as you know. So yeah, you calling me invoked a stress that I haven't felt in a long time. So
Oh, well, you shouldn't feel stressed out about it. Like,
no. But you wake up.
technically you're my boss. So like, you really shouldn't feel stressed out about it.
No, but when you look at your phone and it's you calling, you're like, oh crap! Like
Yeah.
what
What's
time is
that
it?
about?
Yeah, like I don't
Yeah.
even know
Yeah.
what time it is. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. If you get a phone call from me, it's probably something. Like it's
Right.
never like, "Hey man, what's up?" Like I'm not.
I also know at some point this morning I looked over and it was like 7:30, so
Yeah.
I still had some time.
Oh
And
yeah.
but like that wasn't the alarm either, so I don't know. We'll figure
Mm.
that
All
out.
right. Well, everybody woke up today to find out that the Commanders finally are going to be part of Hard Knocks. They have never been part of it before. Not in the full version. That's the Bills this summer for the training camp episode. You'll notice they didn't do any off-season one this year after what I think was the Giants debacle, honestly. Actually, it was the best version of it as a viewer that I've seen of Hard Knocks in a while, but it totally exposed them and looked terrible. And I don't think there's any GM that's going to want to ever do that moving forward, where you have to literally talk about all of the decisions you made. Anyway, the NFC East is the division of focus in season. And so that means we're part of it for the first time. And I do this another one of those. I do wonder if Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, they like this because it's like, here's the most profiled team off of their best year in 35 years, most profiled team on the schedule, now getting more lights and cameras shown on them. And granted, they're not the only one that's part of this whole thing, but boy, have they been thrust into superstardom like overnight.
I would say this too, like I doubt they like it, one. Two, though, I'm sure the league is going, you've never been on this. You got to be on it in some
That's right.
capacity now, right? And I'm sure, though, there is a little bit of a bright spot here that they are going, it's not just them. It is the other three teams. So the time is going to be probably, like Hard Knocks usually does this. They usually focus on one team more in an episode and then they spread it out. But with four teams, I'm sure it's going to be pretty spread out. And if I'm the Giants and the Cowboys, I'm pissed today because the Cowboys already did it a couple years ago. The Giants did the offseason version last year. They're going, what the hell? Why do we have to do this? But
That's right.
I bet you the Commanders and the Eagles are like, we have no interest in doing this, but maybe we'll do it if you want to feature everyone else too.
And the Giants, too. Russ, Jameis,
Oh my
Jackson
God.
Dart.
I can't wait.
Like I went through their schedule the other day because by the time that this pops up, they could have a bad record. If you look at like early in the season, what they have. So this could be ugly again. We're in real time. They're watching this. I'm sure the Giants want nothing to do with this. So they've got the biggest complaint, I think, to be like, we just did this a year ago. Like, why are you doing this? The Cowboys got what I thought was the total kid glove treatment of it a couple years ago, where the most interesting thing that happened was Jerry Jones puts weird condiments on his McDonald's. Like, that was like the most interesting thing that happened. The Eagles, they haven't done it, right? I don't think they've done it.
I don't think they've done it.
I don't remember
either.
ever seeing them on it.
Yeah. If they have, it had to be years and years ago. I don't remember them doing it.
Those guys, if we get profiled more than they do too, it'll be another reason for them to cry. They're when I follow them, they're like insanely jealous of what's going on around here. It really doesn't even compute to me. I mean, you guys have had way more success over the last 20-something years. You've won 2 Super Bowls, including the last one. Why are you so insecure? Like, I don't totally get it, but they're totally insecure about us. I don't know what it is about.
Well, I mean, it's because we're their biggest threat. I mean, we're not only the biggest threat, we're also in their division. And I would say this, and I think there's a valid argument here, but I wouldn't be losing my mind over it. It's that they killed the Commanders in the NFC Championship game and won the Super Bowl. And like you look at the schedule and no one cares. Like they're still making the Commanders the belle of the ball a little bit. There's a little bit of an argument, but I would be losing my mind as much as they are right now.
So, okay. Who's going to be the star for us? Think it's Quinn? Is it Terry? Probably Terry. They're clearly going to try to focus on Jaden.
Right.
I'll say this about Jaden. Like, he's like, you've seen enough interviews with him. Like, he's not sharing a ton. He might do a thing here or there. He's not like the typical, he's not, he doesn't like, he keeps to himself, I guess would be the best way to put it. He's kind of quiet, humble. Maybe that'll change over time, but I don't expect that you're going to get a lot out of him, even in maybe you'll get a lot out of watching him. Like if he lets them in and shows that he's there at 5 o'clock in the morning and shows the VR training and shows the early morning meetings with Cliff and stuff like that, or the kidding around with Bobby Wagner and all that, I think you'll get some stuff out of that. But the sit down interviews, I wouldn't expect is going to be overly revealing, just having been around him for a year and seeing how much he kind of doesn't really share, doesn't really want to talk about it, like not in a bad way. And he's not like hiding anything. It's just not his personality to be kind of out there. So I don't know that he's logically going to be the person they watch, but I don't know if he's going to end up being the star. I think Terry's going to be a star out of this. I think people are going to find out about him that they didn't know about him, of like what kind of leader he is. I think he's going to be the one that's going to pop off the screen, honestly.
So I think Terry's going to be popular because they're going to have to feature him of how much the fan base loves him. Like they're going to have to show just how much the fans love him. That's going to be very natural. I'll go the other side of the ball here. I think it's going to be Luvu or Wagner. I think both of those guys, I think if you interview them and let them show their personality a little bit, I think those two have the potential to be stars on the other side.
Yes. I think if Sandra-Still's having a really good year, I think he could be prominently displayed too. Wagner's going to be a focus because of age, definitive Hall of Fame, all of that type of stuff. And I think if Quinn opens the doors to them and lets them, and I think he will, like, I don't know that Peters will, and I don't know that Peters needs to because it's the middle of the season. Like they're going to talk about him, but it's not like the offseason version where they have to like focus on decisions that he's making. I don't think that that'll happen unless they become a trade deadline team again. But I think Quinn's going to get people are going to get a good look at him and hopefully see why the players are so into him. So I think Quinn could be a star. He's got a real salty mouth. So I think people are going to like really like that about him. I mean, there's curse words coming out all over the place. I think they're going to like that about him. They're going to try to focus on Jaden. I don't know if they're going to get what they want out of that because he's not like a really outward like person like that. Terry's going to stand out. I think Wagner will too. If he's smart about this, if I'm his agent, I'm telling him, do whatever they want. We're going to try to get you in the Hall of Fame as fast as possible. Look good on camera here. I mean, that's what I would say to him. Luvu, I agree because of, I don't know, the energy around him. I think Terry's going to be the one. Maybe Ertz, maybe a little bit too, if he has the same role, because he's actually really good doing interviews, being introspective, talking about the past, talking about keeping everything together, the relationship with Jaden. I think Ertz could be a big star here too.
I think we also shouldn't overthink it. Like, who's our favorite press conference of the week? It's usually Witt, right? Like, I think that could be somebody that like we love watching or hearing him every week. Maybe he has the potential too of like they show him a little bit because like we talk about it. That's my favorite press conference of the week when they're playing, and if they profile him a little bit, I could see that being one that pops up.
Yeah, I know no team is in the business of losing people, but if they allow Witt to kind of get out there a little bit and then people see the press conferences, I think that there might be some ownership groups that look at him a little differently, especially if they have a really good year again, that might look at him a little bit differently as someone who's been with Dan Quinn for a very long time. Dan Quinn's having a lot of success. Clearly he wins the room on those press conferences every week. And if they have an above average season with the personnel grouping, I think it says something about the coaching on the team. So I do think there's possibility there. And I guess Cliff's the other one too. I would assume they're going to want to talk to him and talk about the relationship with him and Jaden, why he didn't want to be a head coach again last year, this year. And then what the future looks like for him. So he's another one, I think, to watch here that they probably, he doesn't like to be out there either all that much. He doesn't like to do a lot of these interviews. You see these press conferences, he can be a little snarky, but he doesn't really want to engage on a lot of that stuff. He was very under the radar about the coaching search stuff last year. So I think like they'll probably have interest in him, but he's another one like Jaden. I don't know if they're going to get a lot out of him. That's what I wonder where that one goes. And actually, he could use it to propel himself into a different position, but that's if he wants to. Because I know for a fact that last year, part of the reason why he didn't want to go chase head coaching jobs was he loved working with Jaden, and he just didn't feel like he wanted to go anywhere else. He's still getting paid by the Cardinals, which will still be the case. But you have to politic a little bit if you actually want to move on. So he's going to be interesting one to watch this fall for this too. Does he want to be profiled a little bit? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that'll probably be the most interesting thing here because we've only dealt with this coaching staff for a year and really some of these guys on this roster for a year. It's going to be funny who actually opens up because you and I talk about both Cliff really and Adam Peters. Peters, we've seen a touch of it elsewhere, but not a lot. Those two guys are the masterclass of talking for 10 minutes and not saying a word. So I do wonder if either one of them actually shines a little bit with their personality, lets themselves shine at all, because you know how Hard Knocks works too. Sometimes they like to do that home profile where they follow you around for your life for a little bit. I wonder if one of those two could be a possibility for that as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm sure they want to follow around Jaden as much as possible. Let's see how much they let him. And that'll be up to his mom because his mom controls all that stuff. Like, so is she going to say yes to any of that? And I can't wait to talk to them next week because they have practices again. Like, how much is too much attention? Right. Because I know that like they've been, don't ride the roller coaster, stay medium, or try to. And then, the wife of the owner is saying America's team. The NFL is screaming, we want every part of this story because we think you're the darling. We want everybody to see you. Every other week is a standalone game for them. It is practically every week. Once you get past actually the first month when they have 1:00 games with the Giants and the Raiders, like it's almost every week after that they're they're a standalone or they're in a national window every single week. Now Hard Knocks is showing up. This is unavoidable. So I think a big part of this year, and I'm like, I felt this way for a while. I'm like, our schedule is not going to be like it was a year ago. We're going to get profiled. I kind of felt like that. I didn't know it'd be this, like where they are being treated as the literal it team, having not won anything yet and having not won anything in a long time. So how do they handle that? And I do believe that the infrastructure from ownership through the front office is way more prepared for something like this because Peters has been in places that have won before, multiple different places, and sustained success like San Francisco and New England specifically. Newmark was in Detroit forever where they didn't win anything. And then all of a sudden they started winning, but they've actually been pretty good at sustaining it over the last few years because Washington is really them more than they are like New England because they've been in a rut for a very long time and they're trying to get out of it. Quinn, I think, is a stay medium, be excited, but stay medium type of person. I think the quarterbacks could be interesting. How much is too much attention? Because everybody wants a piece of him. So this is going to be a very interesting year because even if they wanted to keep some of the spotlight off of them, at every turn, every day, they are getting more put on them. They're the Taylor Swift of the NFL. And it's unavoidable what's happening now. So I'd love to talk to them about how are they thinking about this year? Because I think they knew off of last year that they were going to get a lot of attention and the quarterback was going to get a lot of attention. And then they made some moves in the offseason that made them better, looks like a lot better on one side of the ball. And they feel like there's staying power here and they have a unicorn quarterback. So of course they're going to be treated differently. But this level of attention has happened really fast. And so this is going to be an interesting year for them to try to navigate it because they are getting such a tremendous amount of attention. I'm even surprised at the level that it is now.
I mean, from a national standpoint, yes. What I would make an argument is that here locally, by week 12 last year, we were, for the most part, back, as the kids would say. Like, the attention was crazy that the team was getting by that point, by the last third of the season. I'd say after the bye week, essentially. And what I would say is at least they got prepared for doing that. And they won 2 playoff games last year. They were part of the last 4 teams that were left. They at least got a taste of it last year. Like, going into that NFC Championship game, I remember, like, it hit me when they were doing the press conferences and the backdrop was the NFC Championship backdrop. And I went, oh, wow, like, this is real life. And they got their first taste of that. And I would say this, Dan Quinn did an excellent job of compartmentalizing that whole entire playoff run, not just the NFC Championship game, but that whole entire playoff run. They didn't change how they acted. None of their answers got outlandish heading into any of those playoff games. I would say that, like, for the short sample size that we've got of the attention that they got, I thought they did a great job for literally having no success like that in almost 30 years as an organization. I thought going into every single one of those playoff games, they actually did keep their cool to a pretty good level.
So I've told the story a couple times. I told it obviously right after it happened, but I'll tell it again because I think it's instructive right now for like how hopefully they're going to be able to handle this. Week 3 is the game for me.
Yeah.
Like, I know not nationally it was for anybody else, but for me locally, when they went Monday night Cincinnati and won the way they won, and I've described it as, when you see something special for the first time. And that was the first time that we saw something really special with the quarterback. It was the second straight week they didn't turn the ball over, didn't punt. They won their first big game. They won a game no one thought they would win. They were big underdogs in that game. Bright lights. Jaden makes a throw, an all-time throw. That was my favorite play of the year, that throw to McLaurin on that blitz. He chucked it up. He's at the 20-yard line, makes the catch. Like, that was started kind of the, oh my God, this is incredible. Where's it going to go from here? And by a few weeks later, it went from disbelief to new normal very, very, very quickly. And then the Hail Mary happened. So everybody was kind of awakened to it. And then they just started. And then to your point, like locally, I think all the casual fans were like, what's going on here? And I remember that night because we talked to Quinn after every game for the broadcast. And after they won the way they won, I remember saying to him, like, you guys are going to get a lot of attention now because this happened on Monday night. You beat Burrow. You went toe-to-toe with him. Remember, they were good too. They also didn't punt or turn the ball over. Like, their offense was unstoppable. And had we not scored that much, we would have lost. Remember, they were going to blow that lead. They were walking up and down the field on us, and there was no way we couldn't stop them. And I remember saying to Quinn afterwards, I said, like, what do you, like, cat's out of the bag now. Like, everybody saw it. You were the one game. You're going to be the A thing on First Take tomorrow. Like, it's unavoidable. You're going to get a lot of attention. And the first thing out of his mouth was, don't go on the roller coaster. Don't do that. It's way too early for anything like that. And then in general, you just can't. Like, you have to enjoy this and you have to like celebrate it. And we're really happy this happened. And this was a good win for us, but we're 2-1. That's it. We haven't done anything yet. And it was just a good game. Let's move on to next week. And he kept that mantra, don't go on the roller coaster. And he even said it when they had their blip in the middle of the year. When they lost to Pittsburgh and then had their, what I would call their one bad game against Dallas until the NFC Championship game where they had all the turnovers. But the one game of the entire year that I would describe as bad, I don't count the Tampa game because it was the opener. And as a rookie quarterback making his first start, I don't really count that. The one bad game they had, the Dallas game, he even said it then too. He said, don't get on the roller coaster. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. We joke, stay medium, all that stuff. So I'm hoping, and I think we're going to see this early with him, can he control it differently? Because remember, it's easy to say, don't get on the roller coaster when no one expects anything from you. So when you outperform expectations, that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes it surprising, and that makes it easy to tell the team, don't get out of whack here, guys, because no one thinks you're going to win anything. No one projected you to make the playoffs, and we're only 2-1 or whatever. Let's get through the season. That's not what this year is. The expectations are going to be completely changed. The NFL is putting them on you. HBO is putting them on you. Everybody's putting them on you. There are some blogs and sites that are projecting you to be the 1 seed, things like that, even though you have fewer rest days than only 2 other teams in the NFL. You have a brutal schedule. You have a bazillion standalone games, a bunch of short weeks. You're playing you get no advantage of your bye against anybody because the team you're playing is off a bye too. 4 teams off their bye are playing you. Like, the schedule is brutal. So I want to see how Quinn and Peters handle this, because it is totally different. It's easy to say, don't get too high when you outperform people's expectations. But when you walk in and everyone thinks you're going to be Superman, that's a whole different can of worms to deal with. And I want to see how they do that, because I thought that they'd be better last year. It was beyond my expectation. I would have thought in a natural progression, great, let's build off of that. But we went from 0 to 60 is what ended up happening. And now, how do you handle it without it careening off the cliff and getting too far out of whack and controlling the locker room to stay in the moment, which I think Quinn is really, really, really good at. But that job got expedited really quickly this year.
What I would say to add into all of that, though, is they have a quarterback that matches that demeanor. Like, Jaden Daniels has not shown any propensity to lose his cool, have a bad answer. He is Joe Cool, right? Whether they win or they lose. The only time we actually see the most emotion from him is when they lose and he looks angry. Like, that's the most emotion we usually see from Jaden Daniels when he's on the football field, really. Or we saw it last year where he's celebrating other teammates, right? But I think the good pairing here is that the de facto leader of the team also has a very cool, calm, and collected demeanor. And they also know, too, you just got to keep that game close, and he's going to take care of you at the end of the game. It happened literally every time he got a chance to win last year. So I think that's the other factor that you throw in here, is that their best player, the one that the league wants to profile, also has that same calm demeanor in the craziest times of the year. So I would add that in as well. As far as it goes with both Quinn and Peters, yeah, they're calm, but they also still really want to win. So there's no doubt in my mind they're going to be able to kind of handle this. I think they did a great job doing it last year. As I said, this team was in the NFC Championship game, and you and I watch every press conference. And if you would have played the NFC Championship press conferences as the same ones as week 1, they all would have had the same tone, just would have had some different questions.
I mean, the reality is the good teams handle this.
Right.
That's correct. The reality of it. It's just we haven't had sustained success in a long time. And Peters has, and Quinn has. He's been parts of things that have been good for periods of time. Like, he was the DC in Dallas when they're winning 12 games every single year.
Right.
He was in Seattle when they were winning Super Bowls. He was in Atlanta when they turned from year 1, year 2 to get to the Super Bowl immediately and maintained it up for a couple of years before it dropped off. And that's when he said he did the whole personal introspection of, how am I going to do this differently next time so we can sustain it? So I'm not suggesting I don't believe they can do it. It's just this organization hasn't done it. And because it's so much of the spotlight is being thrown on them. I mean, this is partly goes back to where the Eagles are like, I thought we won the Super Bowl. And our division rival is the one that's getting literally feels like all of the attention. Now, if you look at their schedule, it's brutal, and it's got a bazillion showcase games, including the opener. Like, there's plenty of moments there that they're getting showcased in profile, as they should. But I think they're feeling it too, where they're like, really? You guys are going that far with them? And they're like, what happened to us? What, do we chop liver up here? And that's on them to be insecure. I don't know why they're so insecure about it. I would actually be leaning into good luck with that. You guys haven't proven you can sustain success. We've proven we can sustain success. The Ravens have proven it. The Chiefs have proven it. The Patriots with Brady Belichick have proven it. I feel like this team could be that. But until they do it, they haven't done it. And the NFL has decided they're one of those teams immediately. So the pressure's just ramped up, and I'm excited for it. I haven't been part of this where earned expectations exist. I'm excited for it. I believe in this quarterback. I believe in this coaching staff. I believe in the infrastructure of the whole organization that they can do it. But until they do, that's where I'm at. And I'm very excited to see where it is. But this is all, it's like the fame happened real fast, not just like people believe in you. People said, oh, hot damn, you're it overnight. It's amazing.
With the Eagles, though, and I'll make this argument, the Eagles won the Super Bowl, had a great year, but did have that drama. So, like, on that front, they're still a good team to profile. Like, I yelled and screamed about it last year, how A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts were told by their own teammate that they weren't friends, and all of a sudden it became this drama. And, Hurts comes in after, that game, after they said that, he goes, "Oh, is that what you all wanted to see?" Like, it was the media that was stirring the pot themselves. Like, so I will say the Eagles do have a level of drama to them that even though they are better than the Commanders, they do warrant having this attention. A.J. Brown reading a book on the sideline during a playoff game, like, warrants you getting a little bit more attention than other people. So are they being profiled as much as the Commanders? No, but they also do deserve to be in this spot just as much as the Commanders do with what goes on off the field for them.
The last thing I'll say about this, and if you didn't listen to the show earlier this week where we went through the schedules of the other three teams, I made a case just based on the schedule because the Commanders and Eagles have really, really, really hard ones. Either one of them getting to that record again is just going to be difficult to do because quality of competition and schedule quirks that make it very hard for either one of them not to take some dings along the way. But if you look at Dallas's early, it looks like it gets really, really hard at the end of the season. But if you look at theirs early, it looks way more like you could navigate it to a point. If all things work out for HBO here, they're going to have three teams that are locked together when they start airing these, like where they're literally all of them looking like they could be the team that wins the division. I'll believe it when I see it with Dallas because I think Washington and Philly are in a better position. But schedule-wise, I think Dallas could be sitting there. That said, we don't know what we don't know about their coaching situation. We don't know what we don't know about Dak off another major injury year. So all of that stuff is big-time open questions for them. But their schedule reads like when this Hard Knocks starts airing, that there's going to be three NFC East teams with really good records, all jockeying for potentially a one seed or winning the division. And it could be must-see TV. Like that also looks like it could end up that well too.
I honestly can't wait for the moment that Jackson Dart probably is about to start and they have to rewind the tape from last year's Hard Knocks of Shane wanting to draft Jaden Daniels. I'm waiting for that one because they're going to roll that tape back at some point.
Shane's kid told him to draft him. Yeah.
They're definitely going to rewind that tape. They have to. Like, I don't know how you don't do that.
Well,
it's going to be like, speaking of, here he is with Washington.
Listen, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. Like Jackson Dart could come in to be good. Like who knows? So you really don't know. Their schedule's really ugly early. Here's what I know will happen also if all this stuff plays out. If the Commanders, Eagles, and Cowboys are all kind of really good records and the Giants start really slowly, they're not going to profile much of them. They'll be the afterthought of the whole thing. Here's what's going on in New York. They'll pick one or two storylines and they'll stay away from it because the must-see part of it's going to be the other three teams.
I bet you it's going to be a profile for the Giants. They're saying, like, profile Malik Neighbors, profile Carter, like see what he's doing as a rookie. Like it's going to be that. And I think the league should be doing that. Like it is a New York team at the end of the day. Profile their stars, if you can't profile anything else.
All right. I'm excited for it. I hope they come in our booth. You're invited, guys. You guys are invited. Come on in. London and I, open door. Welcome. Please come in. We'd love to have you there.
The week, the week before, I'm going to set a line of how many calls are on the show. That's what I'll do.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? All right. We'll take a quick break. Bram wants to show us beyond 6:30, the Sports Capital. All right. Welcome back. The Tush Push survives. If you read all the reporting of what happened at the owners meeting, Jeffrey Lurie apparently spoke, Eagles owner, for an hour, including one line that he got chastised over, I'm not going to use the verbiage he used, but the creep of this play that works that no one else seems to be able to do is a thing that happens to 12-year-old boys, when they start to come of age.
Right.
Anyway, he got chastised for this. Jason Kelsey apparently walked in the room and was invited in to explain that it's not a safety issue. Don't punish us because it's something really well. Just deal with it. I know you guys know where I've landed on this. I do come from a place of you just got to kind of stop it. And nothing's prohibiting you from figuring out how to do it yourself, but no one else seems to be able to do it as well as they do. Oh, well, that's on you. They figured out something. You can't do it as well as them. Too bad. Like, welcome to football. They don't get an advantage that it's not an advantage for them. They just know how to do something. You haven't figured out how to stop it or do it. That's on you. I really think the second they changed the verbiage in it and said push or pull anybody anywhere, this is where I went. I actually hope this doesn't get banned any longer, because there's going to be ramifications to other plays that have nothing to do with this. They're going to have to make subjective calls about someone being pushed by a lineman down the field when they get stood up as to whether you're allowed to do that or penalize a big play, or is he blocking? And then it becomes subjective over what the person was doing. I don't like that. I'm actually glad that this did not pass yesterday. Had they left it at one very simple thing and say, you cannot push or pull a player who's behind the line of scrimmage, that would have negated the part of this play that people have a problem with. I don't know why they didn't just do that instead of try to make it vague and potentially about any play that involves pushing or pulling a player, because every team does that down the field on plays where forward progress is initially stopped. So I'm actually glad that the way it was submitted, it didn't pass. I'm glad it failed.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had talked about this yesterday. The verbiage wasn't correct on this. Like, I even said you could prevent this by saying you can't push the player that touches the ball first, right? And that way prevents any kind of tush push to really happen. Because I do think, like, this is where the whole entire...
Well, that would then apply to any quarterback who runs a bootleg or a zone read that you could never do.
Okay, I mean,
right?
For the most part, though, we don't really see those guys get pushed, though. They usually go down, right? They're usually looking for some kind of contact.
So you're saying you could never push or pull the quarterback, or if it's a wildcat, whoever came in and got the snap.
Right. That was my thought process, because I will say, what is the quote unquote, and I don't want to say problem, like it's impossible to stop, but the biggest issue I think with the tush push is that, guess what? The offense gets to dictate when the ball is snapped, right? And so they get that extra second and get to run their play, and they know when they're going to be playing. That half second is good for a half a yard or whatever it is. And granted, it's not every single play. I understand that. But I've also said it time and time again. The offense is using a bunch of these little advantages to get that, yard or two to run the tush push. So my thinking was always make it so the initial ball carrier doesn't have it. Or I like yours, behind the line of scrimmage. You're not allowed to push the guy too. I think that's fine too. Either way, I'm with you. I didn't like the verbiage of this because I like those plays where a running back or a wide receiver gets stood up, doesn't go down, and then the offensive line comes in and pushes them through. I think that's a legitimate football play right there. So, yeah, like I didn't like the verbiage of this one. I think they're going to change the verbiage and then re-vote on it next year probably.
Yes, I think so. I think this is very simple. You just make this about you cannot do this behind the line of scrimmage. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. As
opposed to the way this was initially kind of brought forward, which was let's try to ban a play that one team happens to be really good at. I've heard a lot of people argue this is a rugby play. It's not a football play. The basis of football, American football, is rugby. So I hate to break it to you, but like this is how the game was played a long, long, long time ago. It is the basis of the game. It's changed as rules have changed and protective devices have changed. And trying to go down the field 3 yards at a clip turned out to be a really stupid, way to go about it. But going back to its roots and using plays like this, I don't have a problem with stuff. I really don't. And I more have an issue with getting mad at the teams trying to stop it, because we were the poster child of that everybody was getting on Frankie Louvu and the Commanders last year for trying to stop a touchdown when they're trying everything possible to try to stop a play that you're calling unstoppable and put in a rule change to try to ban it. So stop getting mad at us for trying to find creative ways to go about trying to stop the thing. And like, I also hear out Louvu the other day when he was like, we have to time this thing up to have any shot to stop the thing. And if they hard count and we jump over the line, yeah, it looks a little comical and it looks like we're trying to make a mockery of it, but we're trying to stop a touchdown here. What do you want from us? If they hard count this and we mistime it, what do you think is going to happen? So I don't think this is as controversial as people made it. And I actually think there were simple solutions, but they went about it in such a complicated way that I'm really actually glad that this didn't pass, because what you don't want to have happen is all these other plays are now up for subjectivity by referees to decide whether you're going to put a penalty on it, because the Eagles go, oh, I thought you couldn't push anybody. And it happens to be Brian Robinson is 10 yards downfield, stood up. Here comes Sam Cosmi pushing him. And all of a sudden we get a 10-yard penalty for pushing a player down the field. That's not the spirit of why we changed the rule. So I'm just really glad this didn't pass.
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, too, I was wondering if it did pass, would that be one of the ones they actually call? Right. How this works.
But then it becomes subjective. That's the problem.
Sure. But we all know what the rule change was for, what version of it. So I would say that. And as you know, during training camp, the refs come in and they actually call things. So I think it would have been one of those situations.
The other one that did not go through was the playoff reseed vote, because the Lions rescinded it, which I would assume was for two reasons. One, I guess it didn't have enough support to pass, so they just pulled it. Two, and I think the NFL wants to think it through and actually put forward what the owners want collectively, which I guess they just couldn't come to a consensus about. I really believe that this needs to change. We had an extreme example of it a year ago where the teams with the two best records in the whole game, outside the Chiefs, two of the three best records, but the two best records in one conference happened to come from the same conference and happened to play a Week 18 game that felt very winner takes all. Someone's going to be a one seed and someone's going to play no home playoff games in all likelihood, which seems wrong, right? And maybe that was extreme and maybe that won't happen very often, but you could make a case that could happen in the NFC North again. You could make a case that happens in the NFC East this year with the two teams that most people believe might be the two best teams in the NFC coming into the season. So I do think this needs to be addressed. I still do believe if you're going to have divisions, then winning the division has to matter. It gets you in. I had no issue with the idea of, okay, you win the division you're in, but we are going to seed by record. And it still will eliminate probably somebody who has a better record than a division winner, but just didn't have enough wins to become the wild card team. So it's still going to eliminate a team with a better record. I thought this would go through, but they pulled it. So I don't know where this is going now. And obviously for this year, everything just stays the same.
Yeah, I think this one, and I kind of said this, I think this one came down to, those division games, when you win a division, you get that home playoff game. That home playoff game isn't $0. You get a lot of money from selling playoff tickets and having your stadium open. And yeah. I think this is probably where the snag was for the owners, was going, no, if we win our division, that's a chunk of change that we want to take advantage of. I'm going to go with, they still might change this, but I'm thinking that's the hang up here, because
but I would say to the owners at the same time, if you happen to be in the division and somebody has one more win than you, then don't you still want that home money for having the better record than the other teams? Don't you want that?
Sure. But then you might have certain divisions like the NFC South, for example, that are going, we probably would have been playing on the road, next year or whatever. I also think there's one side of this too, is this does not happen every year. We haven't seen an example like that in a long time where it was for the one seed. And I think they want to say, let's let it play out for another year or two. Mean,
even the Heineke playoff year, Washington was 7-9.
Right.
It had a home playoff game. That's nuts. That's nuts.
For sure. But I think what they're saying here too is I think they like the sanctity of that home playoff game. Unfortunately, that's what I think is happening here.
The one thing that did go through, and I did get a lot of publicity, but the onside kick does get tweaks. I don't know why they're doing this. The ball's going to get moved back to the 34-yard line for the kicker, but the players are up on the 35. I'm not really sure why. I'd like to ask Tressway why. What is that? Because he's my resident special teams expert. Why? Why would that matter? Two, now you can do it at any point in the game if you're trailing. You have to be trailing, but there is no surprise onside kick. You still have to announce it.
Right.
So that's really the only tweak that occurred here is if you're losing and you want to do it, but you have to tell the other team who's going to do that? You better be down a lot. So I guess in the third quarter, if you're down 21 points and you scored a touchdown, you're down 28, you make it to 21, and you go, we have to get the ball back. You can announce you can do it. I suppose there's scenarios like that to me. There's nobody that's down 10-3 that's kicking an onside kick in the first quarter and announcing that they're going to do it. Like, that's absurd.
Yeah.
So I'm not even sure why. I guess this was just open the door for it doesn't have to be just in the fourth quarter. That's all.
Yeah, which I mean, I guess is fine if you want to play that game. I've just said this before. The onside kick is pretty much dead because you know when it's coming now. I mean, not saying you didn't know it was coming before, but now that you have to literally announce it, it is what it is. Like, this is one where I just don't think there's that much of an effect.
And then the last one was, and I've seen this coming for a long time. Roger Goodell said within 5 years, there's going to be 16 international games per year, which means everybody's going to have one.
Yeah.
Everybody. So great. Let's go.
I mean,
no complaints on that one, guys. Especially if everybody's doing it, there is no complaint for anybody, really.
This is not a shock. Like, I always found this is why that extra week was also added, like why we play 17 games now was to open up the schedule for this. I will say what's going to happen here too is week 18's coming now. Like, whenever they want to do that, that's going to kick in. I've said this before too. You heard Joe Burrow say it, an extra bye week too. If you're going to play 18 games, it seems like a no-brainer at this point. So that elongates the season, adds international play. I think we're barreling down towards that. They're just taking
100%.
They're taking it step by step now.
Yep. And the Super Bowl is going to be at the end of February in the very, very near future. Right. Probably President's Day weekend where everybody has the Monday off, which is what people have asked for forever.
Correct.
All right. Let me take a quick break. Bray, what's the show? He's at 6:30 Sports Capital. All right. Welcome back. I'll spend a moment on the passing of Colts owner Jim Irsay, who died suddenly at the age of 65. But if you follow the league, he's been in poor health for a long time. Some of it is of his own doing. He was an addict in his life. He openly discussed use of alcohol and drugs to period, whether prescription or non, in his life. So he lived life pretty hard for a long time. He also was the owner of the best period of time in that franchise's history since Johnny Unitas with Peyton Manning when they were with the Colts, won a Super Bowl, could have won many more. Probably if Tom Brady wasn't in the league, would have, and I think around here, I'm seeing a lot of things that have been tweeted about. He was the one that stood up and was the first owner publicly to literally say Dan Snyder had to go. So that's part of his legacy for sure. Here, the name Irsay in this region doesn't carry a lot of great weight in general because his father was the one that moved the Colts out of Baltimore to Indianapolis. They have since obviously gotten the Ravens back, but I'm old enough to remember that felt like the region was devastated, even as a huge Redskins fan, that just felt wrong, knowing how important the Colts were to Baltimore. So it's a complicated legacy, obviously, as most owners have. It's a complicated legacy. I don't know. What are you thinking about when you saw that he passed away?
For me, it was, first off, I had the same exact thought. Like, he really was one of the sparks that lit the fire to get Dan Snyder out. And for that, I'm forever thankful. Like, we needed somebody to finally effing say it, essentially. And he did, and it helped, right? When I hear Irsay too, I think of an owner that actually, like, out of all of the billionaires in this sport, he was always the one, like, we would play his press conferences because he was the real quote. Like, he would say some crazy things. And with Irsay, I always looked at him as that's the guy that is a billionaire, but is acting like the cowboy. Like, was in a rock band, was collecting all this rock and roll memorabilia. As we've, you just said, like, he did have a problem with drugs. Like, he publicly went through that stuff. But he was the type of billionaire that I was kind of like, all right, that dude seems like a real human being. Like, he's not just a guy trying to cash in. He was trying to live his life a little bit more. That's how I think of Irsay. Like, you can say what you want about Jerry Jones, like, being the media savvy guy that he is. He's going on and doing all these interviews. Irsay was the real guy that was going off the cuff every time, and you knew that he was going to give you an honest answer every time. And that's what I'll remember him most for. And that did carry into saying Dan Snyder needed to be, ousted as an owner. And I'll always remember that he spoke his mind and didn't say the quote unquote proper thing at the time. And it really did help us too.
I love a good press conference. His Jeff Saturday press conference where he said rocket sausages or whatever was among the greatest train wreck press conferences I've ever heard in my life. They're incredible. Yeah.
And I mean, I think that tells you everything you need to know. That was all off the cuff. Ain't no way any of that was scripted. And like, you have to do respect somebody that just decides in today's day and age going, I don't care. I'm the owner. Let me go out there and talk. And he did, you know?
I did read that like the succession plan is his kids take over the team. So we'll have to see if that's what they ultimately want to do, if they want to, because of what the value of NFL teams are these days, if they want to sell it or not. But it sounds like it's staying in the family, at least for now. His last tweet purportedly was to the Pacers and wishing them luck against the Knicks. And finally, it's taken a while, but finally we had a really good night of sports, including what was by far not close, the best basketball game of these NBA playoffs, where the Knicks choked hard. Well, I'm not even sure that's the case. The Pacers got so absurdly hot at the end of the game where they couldn't miss a number of low percentage threes. And then Halliburton, of course, pulled off a moment of moments and did the choke sign. And then they didn't win because his toes on the line. And then Reggie Miller tried to hide that he liked it because he's on the air. And then they went to overtime and won anyway. It was game of the year in the NBA by far. And if it's what these games are going to be like in this series, finally we have a great NBA series this playoff season.
Well, not only that, too, it was a really good game, too, of back and forth. Like early in that game, the Pacers were up. The Knicks came back. Like, watching the Garden come alive is also a reminder of, like, thank God they're making a run here, because that's all-time sports environment. But seeing that happen where they came, and then you had the moment right before the half where Cat, like, hit that shot and then dapped up a Pacers player. Like, that was funny, too. So I'll say this, too. That was a really good game leading into that. That was easily the best game I've watched of these playoffs.
Oh, by far. And, man, Halliburton is a killer.
Yeah.
Some people love the Garden. He is a killer. Like, I think he's in the Donovan Mitchell realm where you don't think of him that way initially, but then the playoff lights turn on and this guy wakes up. He wanted that shot so bad at the end of the game. It was incredible theater. Nice to see it. Great comeback by the Stars last night on the Oilers too. So we had a big night of sports. It was really great. All right, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.